Gonna get started here just a little bit. Looks like we have everyone popping in, and there's some more adding as we go. For those of you who aren't joining us right now, who are on, you'll see right on your screen there is a question, and you can share this right down in the chat because we will be monitoring the chat. What is your favorite way to get outside in the winter time? Let us know down in the chat. I know for Janelle and I, we're from Minnesota, so I mean anywhere from snowshoeing to ice fishing, it's all considered just a normal day in the wintertime for us. So yeah, let us know down in the chat what are your favorite activities.
Walk out the door.
Yeah, just get outside. Absolutely.
All right. Cross country skiing.
Running, yeah. Downhill skiing, bird watching, yeah. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. Snowshoeing. Ooh, ooh. Skiing. Mountain climbing with snowshoes.
Mountain climbing with snowshoes.
Well, there must be mountains where you
Yeah,
are.
I need to see that. Can you go do that quick so we can see?
Backcountry winter camping.
Yeah, yeah,
Exactly what
yeah.
we
Awesome. Yeah,
love.
I like that. I do quite a bit
The
of that myself.
silence of fresh fallen snow. That's so beautiful.
Yeah, fantastic.
Hiking.
All right. Thanks for sharing your favorite activities
Mhm.
outside.
Oh, I'm still emitting people, so we're gonna.
Yeah, we're still going to keep going. We're climbing here. For those of you who are hopping on, we're just sharing ways we like to get outside down in the chat in the wintertime, the winter activities we enjoy. Feel free to share in the chat down there and we'll share as we go.
Pennsylvania hunt, fish, and camping.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. You know that's a state holiday, deer opener down there. Yep. All right.
Okay, I'm still admitting folks, so we're just gonna wait about a minute.
Yeah, and as people come in here, we'll continue to monitor the chat as well. And we will go through agendas and things like that. But thanks for taking a little bit of time out of your evening to join us for this hour-long session of walking through winter. And we're going to get into it here in just a little bit as we continue to admit people.
Hiking in
Oh,
Colorado.
yeah, absolutely.
My favorite state.
Yeah.
Very biased. I love Colorado. We're coming from Arizona right now, so
Yeah, less wintry here compared to Minnesota back home. Not complaining at all, but it's definitely not winter. Not for us,
and
anyways,
that's
down here.
okay because we don't normally get winter until January, truly.
Yeah,
Like
right?
snow.
Yeah, yeah, I got the cold, but not necessarily snow. All right.
All right, so far we're good. Any hiking in the
Yeah,
snow?
absolutely. Well, thank you so much for sharing your outdoor experiences. We really appreciate that. We're going to cover some of that as well, all those kinds of things. So thank you for joining us from wherever you are joining us from. All right, so we officially want to say welcome. Thanks so much for joining us as we walk through winter and unplug for a mindful hiking adventure. Tonight, you'll gain expert insights into enjoying the winter season responsibly and sustainably, whether you're a seasoned adventurer or just beginning your outdoor journey as well. But this session will provide you with the tools and the knowledge to make the most of your winter experiences. So throughout the night, you'll learn how to plan your trips, how to minimize your impact on nature, and practice mindful outdoor techniques, all while immersing yourself in the beauty of winter. But some just brief introductions on the leave no trace side. I'm Rob.
And my name is Janelle. My pronouns are she, her, and Rob's going to be mostly the host. I'm going to be behind the scenes facilitating the chat, but also currently still letting people in, admitting them in. So feel free if you just entered, go ahead, write in the chat some of the ways that you love recreating outdoors during the winter months.
And we are focused on reducing human impact on nature and promoting mindful outdoor experiences and unplugging from technology. We have the pleasure of having Sonia with Nature Unplugged. Also with us, we have Rachel and Gabby with Fjällräven, and then finally John with All Trails here to guide you every step of the way. And with that, I will introduce Rachel and Gabby from Fjällräven.
Hi everyone, I'm Rachel. I'm a representative for Fjällräven. For those of us who may not know us, we're an outdoor brand based out of Sweden, real experts in cold weather experiences. Like you can imagine, the Swedes know how to bundle up when it comes to getting outside. So really excited to be a part of this and support our partners in this education. I'll pass it off to Gabby.
Hi, I'm Gabby. I was one of the winners of Fjällräven's Polar Expedition, which is a 186-mile journey from Sweden to Norway. And then I'll talk a little bit about that later, but I was one of the winners from last year.
All right, fantastic. And then, of course, with All Trails, we have John joining us.
Yeah, hey everyone. My name's John. I'm a program manager with All Trails. I work for what we call the Public Lands program. If you haven't heard of All Trails before, it's a digital mapping application. It's actually one of the world's largest outdoor applications, one of the most trusted ones. And like I said, I work for the Public Lands portal, which is a program, which is a free program for land managers to give them that information on the app so they can give you the most up-to-date information possible.
All right. Thank you so very much. And I know Janelle and I being, avid travelers and hikers, we use All Trails constantly. So we're very thankful for that.
For many reasons
Yeah.
too,
Oh,
not
yeah,
just
absolutely.
one.
But we are very thrilled to have you here. So thank you. So everyone get ready to embrace winter with confidence and respect for the environment. What you'll see popping up on your screen in just a little bit are a few pictures. And we would like you to look at these and just tell us down in the chat using the numbers, which one of these outdoor activities, which of these photos resonates with you the most. Some of those pictures, some people may recognize themselves, some maybe not. But all those different wintertime activities, that is kind of quintessential winter is what we think about, right? Especially in Sweden, especially up in Minnesota, like I said, we're from, and obviously Colorado. But which one of those, maybe there's one, maybe there's multiples. Let us know down in the chat, which one of those pictures resonates with you the most? Something you may already do or something that you really, really want to try.
Yeah, hiking, snowshoeing. Number two.
Yeah.
Sledding, dog sledding.
That's right.
Number 9. Oh, yes, snowmen.
Oh yeah, building something. Absolutely.
I really like snow angels too.
Yeah. Yeah.
3, 4, 14,
I like it. Yeah. 14
11,
running. Yeah.
50 ice skating. I grew up also playing from Minnesota, so I grew up playing hockey, ice hockey when I
Everyone
was
grew up playing
little.
hockey.
But when I was playing ice hockey, it wasn't a girls' sport, and nor was it a high school sport for girls. So then my parents made me quit and play basketball.
All right. Well, thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Wow.
thank you for sharing that. This kind of gives you an idea of what we're thinking about when we're talking about outdoor winter recreation. And for this session, we're going to concentrate a little bit more on hiking, but there are so many opportunities that winter has to offer that people really shouldn't overlook. Let's talk about the agenda a little bit as we go forward. We're going to have 3 sections. The first one being preparing for your winter activity. So basically knowing before you go. Then we're going to get into some sustainable hiking practices, basically leaving it better than what you found. And then we're going to get into winter specific hiking tips. And then we'll have a Q&A down at the end. And then I believe we're also going to talk about a giveaway towards the end of the presentation as well. So be sure to stay on for that.
And also during these during this outline, we're going to have our guest speakers as well touch on some of their experiences. And truly, it's going to be more of a storytelling type night.
Yeah, yeah. And shout out to Gabby, behind the dog sled team here. That is her from Polar. Yeah, so it's
All Polar.
yeah.
2024.
Yeah, fantastic. Yeah, love to see it. Love to see it. But as we get into talking about preparing for winter activities, as we look to ways to get outside, it really starts with planning your outing. Because when you think about it, the better planned you are, that's the best way to maximize your fun, maximize your safety while minimizing your impact while you're out there as well. So a couple of things that we want to keep in mind as we're planning to get outside in the wintertime, especially in the wintertime with the colder temperatures, is you want to plan for weather. That should be the biggest, most obvious thing. The weather is going to dictate so many things. So get your day bag, pack appropriate layers for the weather conditions that are going to be there for your trip. And that not only goes for the day, but for the evening as well. And I will tell you why in just a second. But packing those extra layers really comes in handy because as you're being active, your body heat is high. But if you stop, take a break, enjoy the view, eat lunch, your body temp is going to cool down. An extra layer really comes in handy for something like that. And checking on the weather. Is it going to be a severe, clear bluebird day? Well, just because it's winter doesn't mean sunburn isn't a possibility. So plan on sunblock, plan on sunglasses, these kinds of things. A lot of times people think wintertime isn't a big deal for sunlight, but it actually is. Anyone who spent any time outdoor in the wintertime, you know exactly what we're talking about. But if you are checking the weather and there's a big storm system coming in, whether it's a blizzard, maybe there's a polar vortex coming and the mercury is going to dip like crazy, that may be an opportunity to maybe do a tactical retreat. So when in doubt, don't go out for those kind of winter times activity. Plan for another day instead. And then we're talking about trail conditions. The weather will dictate that as well, but the park websites and the visitor centers are a wonderful place for those trail conditions information. And then, of course, for us, we use All Trails for that because not only does All Trails give you the weather report for the hike that you're going to go on, but there are also user contributed trail conditions that are on there as well. So it's a very great resource that we come to rely on quite a bit.
And also looking over the recent reviews.
Yeah, absolutely. And then gear. I'm a gearhead. I got a piece of gear for just about everything. But if it comes to the conditions of where you're hiking, if it's going to be icy and slippery, maybe think about micro spikes or some kind of traction device to make sure you're not falling over. It's no fun slipping and sliding unless you're planning on slipping and sliding. And some of the things that we like to bring when we're out there winter hiking, trekking poles or a walking stick. Maintaining 3 to 4 points of contact is going to help you stay balanced, going to prevent you from taking that nasty spill. And then the last piece of gear that we love to bring with us, it's so simple but so effective. It's simply like a foam sit pad. There's a bunch of different ones out there, but taking a lightweight, small sit pad will save you from a cold butt, a wet butt. So if you're going to take a break and eat lunch on a park bench, a picnic table, a log, a simple foam pad will come in handy for all of those situations. And as we talk about preparing and enjoying our time out there in the wintertime, I think Sonia from Nature Unplugged has some tips and tricks as well.
Yeah, thank you. So I wanted to start with a quick introduction to Nature Unplugged for those who might not be familiar with us. We are a nonprofit organization that offers educational and outdoor programs that focus on better mental health in the digital age. And ultimately, that is about more green time and less screen time. Many of us know this to be true, but over the past decade, we've been seeing a rise in mental health challenges across all ages and demographics. And it's no coincidence that timing-wise, this parallels the prevalence of smartphones and the rise of social media. So people are spending more time on their devices and alone and less time outdoors with their communities. So our focus, the core of our work and our solutions is simply like creating intentional boundaries with technology and reconnecting to nature. So I'm very excited to be here today to share some tangible tips and tools about how to maximize your nature experience and minimize the potential for digital distraction. And this is a good opportunity to also say, not anti-tech. Our organization is not anti-tech at all. It's just about intentional technology. So to start, because our phones and our devices are so integral to our daily lives, we really have to plan ahead to successfully unplug while we're out in nature. And so here are a few things that we recommend. First would be assessing your tech and device needs for safety, right? This goes into the LNT concepts a little bit here. But do you need your phone? You ask yourself these questions. Do you need your phone? And if so, what do you need it for? How accessible does it need to be? You know, are you with other people and does everybody need their phone? Maybe you can just have one phone for the group. So again, those are good questions to get you started and in touch with what your actual device and tech needs are, so that you don't get sucked into a vortex with your phone. And on that note, also, we like to encourage people to create a home for your phone. And so that is a place where your phone lives when you're not intentionally using it. So if you're going to have your phone out on the trail, which is totally okay, think about where it's going to be when you're not using it. Will it be in your pants pocket? Is it in your hip pack? Maybe a backpack? It may seem like a really small thing, but being thoughtful about that can make a big difference in how much you're using your phone, and what the experience of your nature adventure is. And third is essential functions only. So it's about how do you use your phone or your device as you're intending to, lowering the chances of you getting distracted by like a random call, a text, or a notification. Our unconscious habits around our phone use are really powerful. So for example, you might like pull out your phone to snap a picture or to check the weather, and then find yourself in an Instagram vortex or checking your email or responding to a group text. It's really easy to happen. So think about what steps you can take to make some of those non-essential functions on your phone less accessible and distracting. Maybe you could put your phone on silent, turn it on to do not disturb if you want to take it a step further, maybe even airplane mode. Perhaps just turn off notifications, even if it's just temporary. And this is always a good one, right? Is download your maps ahead of time for offline use, and maybe even consider using your smartwatch for navigation so that you don't have to pull out your phone if you're worried about stepping off the trail. So really just getting clear on what's essential and what's not. And if you think about those three things, right, like what phone or techniques do I need for my safety? If I'm bringing my phone, where will it live? And then also, what settings can I change to minimize distractions and preserve the essential functions? If you do all those things, you'll have set some really good intentional boundaries for your device, and they won't get in the way of your nature experience.
Thank you so much. That makes a lot of sense. I know for us, we put our phones on airplane mode mainly to save battery, but also not to get the interruptions that aren't caused by us. If we take out our phone, that's an interruption. But instead of having the external sources just hitting you constantly, which they do, we always put our phones on airplane mode. But it's there just in case we need to take pictures.
And taking the Bluetooth off too.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, thank you so much. And then also to help plan for the conditions for your outing, we have John with All Trails on that.
Yeah, thanks, y'all. Appreciate it. And yeah, thanks, Sonia. We really love the work that Nature Unplugged is doing. And here at All Trails, we see so much benefit from people getting outside and sort of connecting in order to disconnect, being able to plan ahead and prepare, which is actually L&T's first principle. So maybe I'll just drop those in. But I have a little bit of a story to tell you about how you can use All Trails and just generally planning ahead for any of your trips. So last year, I did a 5-day backpacking trip in the Weminuche Wilderness, which is in Colorado. I did this with two of my best friends. And our goal wasn't to do big miles. We really just wanted to take a break from work. We had a really busy summer, and we wanted to do some high alpine lake fishing, fly fishing. And so the areas that we were going to were above tree line. And really what that means is that most of our route was really faint trails, and it required a lot of route finding and mountain sense. So we really needed to do a lot of planning. We knew these routes existed, but we also came to terms with the fact that we'd have to put in a lot of effort to get through these talus fields and over passes and really navigate where we were, what we were doing. And so in preparing for this trip, we really used every resource at our disposal. And one of those things that we did use was All Trails. And at All Trails, we really want to lower the barriers of entry to help people get the information they need. And at the same time, have the most up-to-date information. And so we think it's a combination of that ease of use and the accuracy. And if the platform you're using isn't doing those things, it's really hard to trust that. And so at All Trails, like the L&T team here said, we have these advanced conditions that give you a heads up of what's coming. We have these reviews that people have already been out and leaving kind of breadcrumbs to tell you what you could experience. And so for us, All Trails came particularly in handy when we were using heat maps. And the heat map is the path other users have taken and recorded. So we use that to see where people had gone on the route before us. And we use a lot of the weather conditions, right? Like these Colorado afternoons, they're notoriously fickle. And one of our earliest concerns was thunderstorms above tree line, especially in the afternoon. So having that weather data easily accessible on our phones really helped us make decisions that kept us safe in the Alpine. And I think we often think of planning for conditions as looking at what the weather might be. And I think of that as like this macro environment, right? This big view of what the weather is. But weather can quickly change, and part of planning for conditions is knowing the micro environment too. Like how easy is the trail to follow? What's the surface type? What might wind feel like at elevation? Do you have a warm drink when you get back to the car? Right? Pro tip for everyone, if you put warm nacho cheese in a hydro flask, it will stay warm in your car. Then you can have nachos when you get back to your car to warm yourself up. So there's a nice little tip for y'all. Um, but there's all these things in that microenvironment that sometimes we forget because we're just looking at, is it going to rain? Is it going to snow? And there's lots of these other pieces. And I like to say sometimes technology can feel a little bit like a cheat code because we have so much information in one place. But in this case, and I think in a lot of planning cases, it really does enhance our trip experience, right? Like Sonia made some great points about this, where we can, like I said, be connected in order to disconnect. Because we were able to plan thoroughly before our trip, all of us knew exactly what each day may look like. We knew like the primary routes, the secondary routes, the evac routes. We knew how far the next lake would be and what the elevation we'd be doing. And because of this, we rarely took out our phones. And when we did, it was pretty much to take a poorly zoomed in photo of a mountain goat that was really far away, or a picture of a trout that we like to believe was bigger than it actually was. So it really felt like we were able to use all trails in that intentional way that Sonia pointed out. We could put it in our pocket. We could let it. We didn't have to think about it. And we really got to connect as friends. And when we needed it, it was there to help prepare us, facilitate our shared experience, and then help us make those safe decisions. So just a great way all around to plan and prepare for these trips and make sure that you're safe while you're out in the environment.
All right, thank you so much for that. I know Sonia did mention it, and I don't know if you touched on it, but having the maps available offline, because there are times where there's no cell signal where we're going. So having the ability to have those resources offline is very valuable to us for sure.
And I also want to say, just kind of going off what John said, very important. We were also doing a high alpine hike. And as far as planning goes, the group leader should take into account and educate everybody, because we were at a 12,000 foot pass, and Rob didn't know much about the weather and how dangerous it can be when those clouds all of a sudden appear over the mountaintop.
And they did.
And they did, and you should take into account the abilities, because I'm like, can you hike fast enough to get over, or can you not? And what we should have done is retreat down a little to tree
I was
line.
tired. I didn't get a good night's sleep. All right. So now we want to take an opportunity to get a lot of our participants involved. We're actually going to conduct a few breakout sessions here. We're going to put you in very small groups, and we would love for you to share different stories and different ways that planning ahead and prepared worked for you, or maybe didn't necessarily work for you. So just follow the prompt there, and then we'll get you broken out, and we'll just be in there for a couple of minutes, and then we'll bring you right back.
And as we go, I'm just, as I create these rooms, if you feel comfortable to share afterwards, awesome. They're going to be really small rooms of maybe 2, maybe 3 people, and we'll have you in for about 3 minutes. So you have about a minute and a half to share with the person you're in with.
See you
So.
soon. All right, it looks like we got some people finally coming back. We had to move a couple of rooms there. Some of you were solo there for a little bit until we put someone in there.
Apologies.
Yeah, but
Hopefully.
yeah, hopefully you had a chance to share some of your experiences and how, planning or not planning ahead could really affect your trip, for the better or for worse. And if anyone has a particularly a good story, if you can describe it briefly in the chat, I'm sure a lot of us would love to hear it because I'm sure everyone can think of a time, not necessarily going outside, but just in everyday life where they maybe didn't plan as much as they should have and things didn't work out quite as well as they hoped. So planning ahead and preparing is important not only for just going outside, but just for everyday life.
So,
All right, we can look down in the chat there. Like I said, if you can summarize a really cool story, throw it down in the chat. We'd love to share that, and we'll get to that as they come in.
and if you did not have anybody in your chat room, we apologize. It just didn't work out. So that was our fault on that end, and we apologize, but
Yeah. But as we come back in here, everyone, welcome back. We'd like to get into some sustainable hiking practices. Now, the goal is to get everyone outside to form that connection with nature. And we are seeing visitation in the outdoors go way, way up. And that's a good thing. We want everyone to be outside as much as possible. But with that, we're starting to see impacts rise with that as well. So the goal here is to give some education so everyone can just be a little bit more mindful that when they're outside enjoying all these awesome activities, ways that they can be a little bit more sustainable to keep their footprint, to keep their impact as minimal as possible. One of the big ones in the wintertime is simply sticking to the trail. That's actually one of the principles of Leave No Trace as well. So the cool part about hitting these trails, a lot of these trails in the wintertime, is the summer crowds are gone. There's a lot of people who aren't visiting these places, and you can get some prime hiking in without the crowds. And with less people, that means the place is a little bit more quiet. The animals will start to roam around and come back to that area a little bit more. And also those impacts from all the people in those spaces will start to reduce as well. Now, if you're hiking in the wintertime, sticking to the trail is extremely important. And what we look for if you're hiking on snow is at least 6 inches of snowpack underneath your feet. That's enough snowpack to protect any sensitive vegetation that is underneath you. However, as the temperatures fluctuate from well below freezing to just around freezing or above, things start to melt and that snowpack melts away, leaving the original trail, which means now it's even more important to stick to the trail. Because as the snow starts to melt away, it starts exposing the vegetation from the side of the trail. And if people start coming off the trail and wandering around, now you're impacting that vegetation. Trail widening, erosion starts to happen. That's why it's very important to stick to those places. So staying in the middle of the trail, regardless if it's slushy or muddy, is highly recommended to leave less of that trail impact. And when it comes to waste while we're out there on our day trip, it's very important to be mindful of what you're going to do with all of your litter. That includes wrappers or fruit peels or any kind of waste that you're going to produce. Plan ahead on a way to pack that out with you. And that does include, like I said, fruit peels or food items. Now we know it's wintertime. The squirrels, they look really, really hungry. They're fine. They know how to find food. What we don't want is the animals to get used to being fed because once wintertime comes around, those crowds aren't there anymore. There are less people visiting these spaces, which means less food, and maybe they didn't prepare for winter and now they're in trouble. So it's always wise to not feed, follow, or approach the animals in these spaces. And also when it comes to waste, it also comes to human waste as well. When it comes to restrooms, use the restrooms at the trailhead, go before you go, and that also includes your pets as well. We love our furry friends. An outdoor adventure isn't quite complete unless you have your dog, it seems at times, but that means you have to plan ahead for their waste as well. And then when it comes to your pets, that also comes to following and chasing wildlife as well. If your dog has a natural instinct to chase everything, maybe keep your dog on a leash, or maybe not bring the dog at all in these particular areas, but it all makes a difference. And as far as packing your dog poop out, that means bagging it and actually throwing it away, not leaving it next to a garbage can, actually going through the whole process. I'm sure everyone has seen, a doggy bag on the trail, let alone next to the actual garbage can. And then as far as being
Pro tip
okay.
for anybody who has a dog. This is what I used to do when I had a dog, is have a Talenti jar or an old peanut butter jar,
Yeah.
bag your dog poop, put it in the jar, put the top on tight, put it in your pack, and you won't smell it. Or just carabine it to the leash, tie it onto a carabiner on the leash. That's also an easy idea. So some of those tips are nice, because I know I've gotten a little hole in my doggy poop bag and it got all over my snow pants before.
Right.
So
And we know that dog waste is an ecological and a social issue. We want to try to minimize that as much as possible. Now, in staying sustainable in the outdoors, Sonia with Nature Unplugged has things to share as well.
Thanks. So yeah, I wanna talk about how mindfulness can enrich our outdoor experience. And mindfulness is one of those words that can mean a lot of different things to different people. Personally, I like how John Kabat-Zinn talks about it as a state of awareness by paying attention on purpose in the present moment and non-judgmentally. So for our context, like being out in nature for the single purpose of experiencing and immersing yourself in the natural world. And when we're able to achieve that, we experience some very real physiological changes in our bodies. How our brains process the digital world is really different than the way our brains process the natural world. The digital world requires a really high level of executive functioning, like the use of our prefrontal cortex, our processing and decision-making center. And that can be really taxing on our brain. And most of us do that pretty much all day, right? Especially if we're in a knowledge-based job. And the natural world, on the other hand, is largely restorative for our brains and bodies. And research shows us that. I think a lot of us feel that when we're outside, but I always have fun sharing what I call nature doses. Because one of the questions that comes up is, I know that I feel better when I spend time outside, but how much time do you actually need to experience the benefits? And the really good news for all of us, especially in winter weather, is that just 5 minutes in nature it's shown to boost our mood or positive emotions and our sense of awe. 15 minutes, we start to see drops in our cortisol levels, which is the stress hormone, by 16%. And we also see lower blood pressure and heart rate. When you start ticking it up a little bit, 90 to 120 minutes can reduce depressive symptoms like rumination and negative emotions. And 3 days, if you're lucky enough to get 3 days, which is also known as the 3-day effect, it can increase creative problem-solving skills by 47%. So those are just some examples of how time in nature can really change the way we function, both our brains and our bodies. And when we feel better spending time outside, I'm probably preaching to the choir here, but we're also creating an awareness of our impact on nature. We're creating a deeper connection to the natural world. So it's a feeling, and there's a byproduct to it. So inevitably, this also leads to better stewardship of the environment. When we connect to things, we care about things. When we want to take care of the things we connect to and value, right? So we'll start to notice changes. We'll start to notice trash. We begin to understand our impact on the environment and our impact on our favorite trails and nature spaces in a totally different way. So it's not just about feeling good, right? Again, it's a really important byproduct of a deeper connection to nature, and it inspires sustainability and environmental stewardship. And so saying all that, like even though we know it's good for us, it can be really hard to get outside into nature and to unplug, right? So I want to circle back to mindfulness real quickly. And when we hear that word, we might think of meditation or yoga or some other formal practice, which of course I welcome you all to do those things outside in nature. But a mindfulness practice can also be really simple and quite informal. It's just about being present in the moment, getting out of your headspace. And so one place we can get in trouble, and by that I mean distracted, is with photography, right? Like how many of us have 100 photos of the same flower on our phone? Yeah. It's a beautiful thing having this unlimited space in a lot of ways, but I want to really challenge you to think about experiencing versus capturing, right? We live in a world where we like to capture and share. And sometimes that can really distract from the experiencing piece of being out in nature. And so one of the challenges I like to throw out to people is, consider having a no photo outing. Just make a rule for yourself. Or pretend your phone is like a disposable camera and you have limited shots. Maybe give yourself 10 photo clicks for your outing. And you might notice that that really changes the way you think about using photography outside and what's special and what you really want to capture. But all that really to say that in many ways, both mindfulness and sustainability are about slowing down, savoring the experience and beginning to think of your time outside as really building a relationship with nature.
Thank you very much for that. I know exactly what you mean when it comes to capturing and experiencing. I know on a lot of the trips, we capture a lot of our things, but sometimes it's nice to put away the phone because the phone doesn't do the view justice. Like it just doesn't. And it's okay to see it with your eyes and actually truly experience it. And you could try to take a picture, but it just doesn't look the same when you get home. But yeah, that's something we try to be more mindful of as well. So thank you. And then when it comes to sustainability, the things that we use outside are very important as well. You need quality products, quality gear, quality clothing that will last through those occasions and those adventures. So you're not constantly buying new things. And to speak on that with Fjällräven, we have Gabby.
Hi. Yeah, thank you. I'm going to talk a little bit about my experience with Fjällräven's polar expedition. Talked a little bit about it earlier. This is a global competition that happens once a year. It's actually happening right now. The deadline is coming up on the 17th. So if this interests you, you can still make this happen for yourself. It is a dog sledding expedition from northern Sweden to Norway, and they choose 20 global participants, 10 men, 10 women, all across the country through an Instagram competition where you submit videos and it's guided by prompts and there's like a whole jury selection. And I was fortunate enough to be selected on that. So I got a fully funded trip to experience the Arctic wilderness through kind of a traditional way of the Sami people that lived in that area in northern Sweden. And it was definitely a life-changing expedition because I previously thought that I really understood what the cold felt like. I lived in Chicago for a couple of years, but that is nothing compared to the Arctic Circle. And you make all these expectations and then just kind of different things happened. And I learned a lot about the importance of life-saving gear and layering, and kind of our day-to-day was dog sledding for hours. And we were in teams of 4 people, and we had a head musher kind of guiding us. And it was really cool to get to build this teamwork with people all across the world because you're dog sledding in a line and these dogs follow the person in front of you. You can't really communicate with words because you're too far apart, can't hear each other, and you're just really responsible for the person behind you. And that's what you would do. You would dog sled and you would look behind you. And if the person behind you isn't there, you send up a signal to the person in front of you, and that person signals up the line. But you also can't leave your dogs. You just basically have to wait for that person to catch up. And if they don't, then you go back for them.
You respond
But-
about slide.
I'm sorry. Oh, okay. I have this story about the importance of gear. There was this one day that I was making coffee for my team, and I took off my gloves due to bad dexterity, and I was getting a little bit impatient with the fire and thought that it would take me about 1-2 minutes, maybe a 5-minute max. And I wasn't paying attention, and it was early in the morning. There wasn't any sun out. And it took me maybe 10 minutes, maybe 15 minutes to get that fire started. And by the time that I did that, my hands were completely numb. And I tried to warm them up on my body. And I don't know if you ever have been in a cold temperature for a long time and you've had your skin exposed and you try to warm up that part of your body, especially an extremity, and you get this really intense burning sensation because all the blood is out of your hands. And that happened. And then shortly after that, I started vomiting. I had early hypothermia just for a couple of minutes of skin exposure. I was fine, obviously, but it was really a beautiful experience. And I have so much more knowledge about cold temperatures after that. And I highly encourage anyone that thinks this would be an interest of them. You do not have to be an expert in dog sledding or even cold weather to apply for this expedition. But I was really grateful to Fjällräven for being able to facilitate this for us. And I think there's some photos as well that you might see from it. But if you have any questions, I can enter my Instagram in the chat, and you can kind of see the videos that I was speaking about, and just, yeah, hit me up with any questions.
Fantastic. Thank you. We actually watched the video from last year and it looked absolutely amazing. And we do know what you mean about cold hands. You know, you take frozen hands and put them in even warm water. It's just, you're going to jump out of your socks. That is for sure. So thank you for sharing. But we want to kind of get into some winter tips. So we've planned ahead and we know what we're getting into. We've made it to the trail and now we know how to kind of hike and spend time outside in a more sustainable way. But what about some actual tips when you're hiking outside in the wintertime? Well, some of the key considerations, one of them is going to be start early. Start your day hike early for a couple of reasons. One is in the summertime, a lot of you are probably used to hiking 3 miles an hour and just putting on some big miles. Well, snow, winter conditions slow that down. A 2-minute fire took 10 minutes to do, right? So the cold really does slow that progress. And also, I don't know if you've noticed in the wintertime, it gets dark like at 4:30, 5 o'clock, which means your daylight hiking time is severely diminished. So allow yourself enough time, make a reasonable goal of distance, because what you don't want to be is trapped out there when it's starting to get dark and the cold is starting to set in. So start early. Also, navigation. Bring a navigation source and a backup navigation source. We talked about using All Trails, which is a great resource. That's available on a phone. However, the cold has a tendency to sap all the power from phone batteries, from navigational devices, from signal devices. So you may be out there, and if you have your phone in an external backpack pocket, or even in your pants pocket sometimes, the cold will drain your battery before you realize it. So having just a simple map and knowing where you are is going to be key. And also, it doesn't hurt to leave your plans and your return time with someone back home. That way they know where to come look for you. And then one big thing, and this is something that we talk about a lot, especially in Minnesota in the wintertime, this is a time of the year to leave your cotton clothing at home. Cotton is very nice, it's very comfortable, but cotton has that tendency to hold water. So if you can imagine you're hiking, you're working up some body heat and you're starting to perspire and sweat, that cotton clothing will hold that moisture against your skin. So when you do stop, when you do slow down, that condensation, that moisture gets cold from the conditions outside, which means you get cold, you know, you have hypothermia and all that fun stuff happening. What you want to look for are more synthetic layers. If you're going to do like a polyester or a nylon blend, those have the ability to wick the perspiration away from your skin and transfer them to the outer layers, giving them a chance to evaporate. And also merino-based clothing as well. Even when that's damp, that will still keep you warm when damp, but that has the ability to transfer moisture away as well. So as long as you're dry, you will stay warm. And then not only your body, but think about your feet. These things, cold feet will ruin any trip. And I know someone mentioned hunting. If you get cold feet while you're out there, your trip is done. Use your insulated hiking boots that are waterproof. We do recommend gaiters if you're in a snowy conditions. Gaiters is simply a cover that kind of goes over your boot and comes up the leg a little bit. That way it prevents snow from actually dipping down into the tops of your boot, causing your socks and then eventually your feet to get wet. So gaiters is a really good thing. I know they have lightweight gaiters for summertime and dust, but wintertime gaiters are an absolute must. Also, if you're going to go to an area where there's a fresh snowfall and you're on trail and maybe a foot of snow dumped, this is where you might want to look into snowshoes. Snowshoes will distribute your weight, giving you more loft to stay a little bit more on top of the snow instead of stepping barefoot where you start post-holing, sinking 12 inches every time you step, and that's just physically draining.
We just had a comment on someone post-holing in the beautiful San Juan Mountains near Telluride. And once you experience that, you understand how exhausting that can be.
Absolutely. And then if you're in an area that you're hiking that they have a body of water that tends to freeze, if you do not know the ice conditions on a lake or a river, stay away from it. Where we're from, again, Minnesota, ice fishing is just what we do up there. If the ice is thick enough, it'll hold 100 trucks on one lake, no problem. So if you don't know the conditions, when in doubt, don't go out, because getting wet in those kind of conditions is a recipe for a bad day.
We also had somebody in the chat share their experience about getting chest deep into a river.
Oh boy.
Yes.
Yeah, see that right there. Yeah, that's a hard lesson learned. Sometimes that's the only time we can learn lessons, right? But for some more hiking tips and also to stay more mindful and connected, we're back to Sonia with Nature Unplugged.
Awesome. I feel like I need to speak to my cold weather credibility a little bit here because I'm talking to you all from San Diego, California right now, but I grew up in Pennsylvania and spent most of my young adult life in Pennsylvania and then North Carolina. So just wanted to say that before we keep talking about winter weather. But one thing I will share is there are lots of mixed reviews on some of the quality of these products, but we talk about cell phone sleeping bags a lot for a totally different reason, but there are like more traditional cell phone sleeping bags to address the issue of, the cold weather zapping the power out of your phone. So that's something to consider and think about too, to just preserve some of the power and the battery on your phone. But I'll keep this part pretty short. I think, sometimes winter weather conditions can feel really limiting or constraining. We're talking about that, really erring on the side of caution if the conditions change or if we're not clear on what the conditions are. But one of the things we talk about a lot at Nature Unplugged is that you don't need an extended adventure out in a remote, pristine wilderness place to experience the beauty and benefits of nature. So, learning to accept and embrace the weather conditions, whatever they are and however that might shape your trip is a really useful skill when we head into winter. And often we just need to change our mindset around it, our plans a little bit, but we don't need to cancel them. We don't need to stay indoors. And I know that's the whole point of having this conversation too. But like micro adventures in local nature spaces, even if it's your backyard or out your front door, they can offer the opportunity to experience all those like really great changes in your body and in your brain that I was talking about before. And I personally think the best part of winter, and this has been touched on a little bit, is winter weather brings this quietness to it, right? It's an incredible contrast to our noisy world and our digital lives. And there's something really unique in that and beautiful in that. And it's easy to not notice it or try to fill it with something, music or conversation, a call to a friend, a podcast. But, create some space to sit in that silence and see what you notice. If you are out with a friend, challenge yourself to take a 10 or 15-minute sort of silent walk together. You might be surprised at all the different things you notice. And really just thinking of using that quietness, the stillness as an opportunity to be unplugged and to be fully connected to your senses and to nature and the world around you.
Amazing. Thank you. And I know as we head into the colder months, we hope that you took away some helpful tips and tricks for planning to be outside this winter season, keeping outdoor spaces clean, staying safe, and then ultimately finding new ways to connect more deeply with nature. And as far as some final thoughts, Sonia?
Sure. Yeah. I think when you think about your tech and device needs before you head out on your adventure, that's really just step one. Put the same thought and care that you use when packing your gear and your snacks into how unplugged you want to be and how you can make that happen. Like always, this is the question I always ask myself, is my device or my technology enhancing my experience or is it distracting me from it? And if you just ask yourself that question, is this enhancing my experience or distracting me from it? Usually it gives you a really good sense of how you might use it or use your technology differently moving forward.
Okay.
Thank you very much. And as we start looking to spend some more time outside, now that everyone's prepared to know how to do it sustainable and they know all the tips and tricks, we also want to bring your attention to Sunday, November 17th. That is National Hiking Day. So if you're going to go outside and enjoy some of these winter spaces and you want to share some of your experiences out there, be sure to use the hashtag National Hiking Day. And if you follow the socials of Fjällräven, All Trails, Nature Unplugged, and Leave No Trace, that we will give away random winners. There'll be 5 winners to receive an All Trails Plus membership for a year. 1 winner will receive a Fjällräven Expedition Pack Down jacket. And then 1 winner will also receive a Nature Unplugged book and conservation card deck. And now we're going to open up to questions in here just a little bit. But
I want to give a shout out to Gabby real
yeah,
quick.
please.
Gabby shared a few photos, and this is one of her during, was it Gabby, the 2024?
Yeah.
2023.
Yeah. No, 2024. This was in April.
That's
Yeah.
really cool. Yeah.
Thank
Yeah.
you. That's phenomenal. And your fingers still got cold. That's scary because I have a circulation problem
Right.
as well. So I understand, but that looks beautiful.
Right. And we have about 2-3 minutes to field any questions you may have. So if you have any questions, please throw them down in the chat. And we'd be happy to answer it, whether it's on the Leave No Trace side, Fjällräven, Nature Unplugged, All Trails, any of it. We're glad to field any questions that you may have.
Yeah.
I also have one more winter tip that I forgot to
Please.
say, that it is better to be slightly cold than hot and sweaty. And that is really dangerous when you sweat outside in the winter. Being
Yep.
cold will just zap your warmth.
You're right. We always say, be bold, start cold, is what we like to say.
That's really smart, though. We didn't have a lot of time to talk about all that, but Rob talks a lot about that because he is a hot tent camper. And to get where your destination is, the goal is not to sweat as much.
Yeah, that's miles and miles up there. Yep, exactly right. A few questions that we have.
Comfortably cool for winter.
Yeah, comfortably cool for winter, exactly. And no bugs in winter, no bears, exactly.
100%.
Yeah, there's definitely that. Yeah, I like the no crowds, no bears, and no bugs. Yeah, that's pretty good. And since you're cold, you can just like cook and eat forever.
Yeah, and we're limited on time. I do just want to say again some of those fabulous prizes. So don't forget on Sunday to do the hashtag National Hiking Day and follow Fjällräven, All Trails, Nature Unplug, and Leave No Trace.
You have to enter your name for a prize. But in conclusion, we'd like to thank everyone here for joining us today. Huge thank you to John from All Trails, Gabby and Rachel from Fjällräven, and of course, Sonia from Nature Unplugged. Lastly, just remember, just because the temps drop doesn't mean the time in the outdoors has to come to an end. There's a whole magical world out there.
Oh, hey. And we would normally depart this with music, but our music is not working. So just think of Pink Pony Club. Sorry.
All right. Thank you so much, everyone. Happy winter hiking.
Bye.